Hi everyone, I'm Kicherra-Chisolm and welcome back to my channel, Kicherra Creates. And if this is your first time with me, then let me introduce myself. I am an artist and instructor, and my goal for this channel is to help you guys develop and to learn simple artistic techniques so that you can make beautiful paintings in the comfort of your own home or wherever you are. So today we are going to paint another still life, kind of similar to the one that we did last week. However, we're going to make this one a little bit more advanced. We're going to do a table, but instead of just having a flat tabletop, we're going to make the table a round table. And we're also going to add a vase with some flowers and a candle onto that table. So one other thing that we're going to use today is we're going to make sure that we use a ruler and a yardstick. That way, when we do the base of our tables and we put down the proportions for our vase and for our candles, everything will be proportionate. Everything will look level. Nothing will be off level or off balance. So as usual, we're going to go ahead and get started with the background. I kind of want to do a medium dark kind of gray background. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with my 2-inch flat brush, and you'd think I would already have paint out, but I don't. So let me get some black paint and some white paint so we can make this gray background. And I'm actually not going to mix any color on my palette. I'm actually just going to go ahead and mix the background color on the background. Considering that all of this background is going to be mostly covered up, you don't want to spend too much time or too much energy focusing on the background, because you're not going to be able to see all that detail after we paint over top of everything anyway. There we go. Finally got the paint out. All right. So since I want this one to be kind of a darker gray, I'm going to start with some black. And I'm just going to put some black paint in the middle of the canvas, the tops, on the sides, and I try to make sure I kind of do the similar thing on the tops and on the sides of the canvas as well. Try to do the sides of your canvas as you go. Then that way you're not trying to go back and touch it up later. I'm going to go ahead and start spreading some of this out. So when I put the white on top of it, it will start to just go ahead and blend nicely. I'm going to try not to get too much water for this right here, because we're going to start sketching over top of this, and I don't want the canvas to be so saturated that I have to dry it off. However, if I do need to dry it off, I can easily do that with just a handheld blow dryer to speed up the process, or I can just wait about 10 minutes or so and let it dry on its own. What? We're 4 minutes in, I already got paint all over me. All right, so I'm just gonna take the same brush, I didn't clean it off or anything, and just get some white paint and basically do the same thing. I'm gonna put some streaks of white basically in the middle first, and then I'm gonna kind of go towards the sides. And once you get a nice blend, make sure you carry it off to the sides too. So I'm going to smooth everything first. And see how I'm kind of just moving the brush quickly, because like I said, acrylic paint, it dries pretty fast, which is what I want, but then at the same time, I don't want it to dry so fast that I can't blend the colors the way I would like to. Don't neglect the size of your canvas. Go ahead and do that as you go. And the same thing with the tops of your canvas. Make sure this side is pretty much covered too. All right. All right, keep blending. And just anywhere where I can still see the canvas kind of peeking through, just trying to make sure I have paint covering the entire background with no canvas exposed. Mind you, I'm trying to blend this all without adding any more water to it because I want to be able to go ahead and sketch our tabletop and the rest of our still life just right over top of it. There we go. I guess I just needed to change hands because now it seems to be going a little bit smoother for me. There we go. And as you can see, you want your strokes to be uniform or you want them to be smooth. So I'm going either left to right, right to left. You can also do up and down if you like to. It doesn't really matter as long as your streaks are smooth and consistent. It doesn't too much matter. All right. And I'm slightly OCD, so I feel like I'm being overly picky about the background. But we're going to style with it just like that. And it's not super dark, but it is kind of a medium dark tone gray. So we are going to sketch our image onto the canvas. But we are actually going to do that with paint. And we're going to do it with a small round brush or a liner brush. Now, it might sound complicated or difficult to sketch out an image, especially with paint. However, it is not. Paint is very forgiving. So if you mess up a line or anything like that, we'll just wait a few minutes, let it dry, and then you can paint over top of it. Unlike drawing, I feel like takes a lot more time. You have to be a lot more precise. It's not as forgiving as painting. So, I'm going to mix up, especially since the background is pretty dark, I'm going to use a lighter color to sketch out everything. It doesn't really matter what color I use to sketch everything out because we're going to paint in and over everything anyway. But I'm going to use a small round brush, yes, a liner brush, and I'm going to make a really light pale blue color just for sketching this out. Now, the consistency that you want for this, because we're actually going to be sketching with the paint or with the paintbrush, is more like an ink consistency. So you don't want your paint to be too thick, or it's going to take you a lot longer to sketch out the lines, and your lines won't be as smooth as well. So then you'll probably feel like you'll need to keep going over them. So make sure your paint is pretty diluted, so it's pretty thin. You don't want it so thin to where the paint is running. However, you don't want it so thick that, like I said, it doesn't move or draw on the canvas nicely. All right. So, and like I mentioned before, we are going to use our ruler. or a yardstick, preferably a yardstick, because this is a 16 by 20 inch canvas. So I think I'm going to start with the curved line first. Then I'm going to use the ruler to make sure that my vase and my candle are level. And then I'm going to round off the rest of the circle. So this one probably won't be as complicated as the last one. But I'm going to take my very small liner brush. And at the bottom here, starting at one corner, I'm trying to mimic that same corner on this side. And see, like I said, we're just sketching. So if we feel like we need to change this line or change that line or whatever, we can. All right, see, nothing fancy so far. And I'm just going to come a little bit above that, maybe about an inch above that, and do another line. Make sure you curve it so that it meets the other line and it looks like they go together or they belong together. Let me step back and look at it for a second. And like I said, painting is very forgiving. So at the end, if we feel like we want to make this area bigger or smaller or whatever, we can easily go back and do that. All right, so let's see. So this is 16 by 20 canvas. So that's right at 4 inches. So right at 8, 12, 10. And if I keep looking this way, you guys, I do have a reference that I am looking at. So all right, so I basically just made some indentation marks for 6, 8, 10, and 12 inches. That way, when I go to lay out my vase and my candle, I can make sure that they're level. So I'm going to start my my vase at the 8-inch mark. So I'm just going to take that same brush. See how I'm holding the paintbrush onto the canvas? See, this is dry. It's already dry, so you don't really have to worry too much about any paint or anything coming off. And like I said, this is mainly just the background, so even if it does, we can go back and touch it up. And I'm not really measuring out the length or the width of this. I just want to make sure it has a straight line. And we're going to kind of eyeball it. All right, and we are going to do a candle in front of that at the 6-inch mark. You know what? See, this is why we grid everything out first before we just start painting, because I'm going to cover up that line. I want to make this vase larger. I'm going to take it out to here. There we go. And I'm going to start my candle. All right. So right now it looks like we have two boxes. I'm going to cover up this line just to make it easy for you guys to see how this is going to be laid out. All right, so I'm going to shape the candle first. And I'm going to do a curved line at the top because this is going to be candle holders and cups and things of that nature. They have round lines because they're circular, they're curved. So you don't want to have just a straight line. So we're going to do a curved line. Then we're going to do a little oval to connect it, or another curved line at the top. That's going to be the inside of our candle. All right, then I'm going to go back in with some gray and cover up these lines just so you guys can see how that's starting to take form. So that is our lovely candle. For our vase, I'm going to round it so I'm rounding it at the top and the bottom. And do the same thing with this line too, because like I said, cups and things of that nature, they're round at the bottom. They don't have a straight line. Same thing with this guy. Make sure you keep your paint thin on your brush. It makes it easier to kind of sketch out with it. All right. All right, let me take a step back for a second. All right, perfect. All right, so I started the cup at 6-inch line. I started the vase at the 8-inch line, and I'm going to do the curve for the table at the 10-inch line of demarcation, and make a curved line to make it look as if the table is round. Let me step back. Okay. Define these lines just a touch more. Now, for the candle, I'm going to do, and there goes my yardstick falling over. All right, I'm going to do a line in the middle of the candle because the candle is going to be lit. So you're going to be able to see the glow from the candle. And I'm going to put a little flame coming out of the candle. And coming out of the vase, I'm going to do a stem here, and I'm going to do the silhouette of some pretty large flowers, and they're going to kind of drape over. So I'm not being too picky. I'm not filling anything in. I'm just doing the silhouette, and we're going to have some of those coming off on this side too, but more so going behind the vase. This side's going behind the vase, this side's going in front of it, or off to this side of it. Let me step back some. All right. I don't really need to do all that, but I just wanted to stepping back again. I'm going to make this guy a little bit thinner. All right. Get a little bit of gray again, just to cover up those lines that I changed. And really, I'm doing it more so for you guys so you can see the composition. All right, let me take a step back. All right, yeah, I like that better. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the table. So with the table, I wanted to be a wooden table, but I wanted to have more of a gray or lighter brown tone to it. So I'm going to start actually with that same liner brush. Matter of fact, no. I'm going to use my round brush, my larger round brush, that way it won't take us long. And just going to get some black paint, make sure it's not too thick. And I'm not going to trace the whole entire line in black, but I'm going to put some here, some in the middle, and some on the sides, just so you can tell this is the ridge of the table and this is going to be the flat part of the table. Dilute that some. And I'm just laying out some shadows, nothing fancy. Now I'm gonna go ahead and use the black to do my shading underneath here as well. So I'm gonna start just underneath the vase and kind of blend some black down. Mind you, we're gonna blend into all of this, so. And it probably sounds like I'm kind of sketching or scratching at the canvas, and I really kind of am, to kind of blend out that black some. And I'm basically going to do the same thing over here in the middle where they meet. And then off to the sides as well. All right. So I'm going to go in now. I'm actually, for the table, I'm going to do the streaks going this way, except for on the round edge. On the round edge, I'm going to have them coming curved. So I'm going to use some white and go ahead and start doing some streaks of white right in here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the top. They don't have to be perfect or go all the way up or down or anything like that. You just want some of that color tone up in here as well. Oh, make sure you bring your tabletop to the sides also. Carry it off to the sides of your canvas. Do the same thing on this side. It just looks more professional, especially if you're gonna gift a piece like this or sell it. You want it to look professional. All right. So I'm actually going to mix in some light brown with this. So I'm just gonna use my base brown and lighten it some with some yellow and some white. I'm just mixing up a pretty light, kind of more like a tan than a brown. But we're going to do the same thing, kind of streaks of that, just to give texture. And we're going to add some of this color down in here too. And you'll see, especially down in here, how those colors are starting to blend together. So you're gonna put a little bit of water on the brush to kind of blend that out some more. And try to cover up those blue lines. We can always go back and touch some up, but at this point you should be getting to a place to where you can start to cover those up. Now we're blending this part out first because we're still want to differentiate that line right there. So I didn't want to just go ahead and start blending the whole thing and then try to re-outline our line down here. Don't forget the sides of the canvas to bring the table off to the side as well. Alright, with that same brush, because I'm not too particular if I have really fine lines or anything like that right now, I'm just going to kind of do the same thing we did to start. Make sure your paint's not too thick. Alright, so I'm just going to add some. One, I want to make sure that this line stands out so you can tell that the table is curved or that it has a ridge to it and not just that it's curved. And I'm going to mix some of those darker or some of that black into there as well and kind of blend it out some. Okay, you take a step back for a second. All right, I'm gonna make this much lighter right here because I want this part to be darker. So I'm gonna clean that same brush, the round brush, clean it out. And I'm gonna take just plain white. Make sure it's not too thick. White paint in particular is very opaque or very thick, so you want to dilute that. And you see I'm still pulling the strokes upwards. Don't forget the sides. All right, let me get some more white paint. There we go. going to go back in and start filling that in with that light brown or tan color that we started with. And then we're going to go back in and add some more of the shadows down in here. So I'm going to clean off that same brush and go back in into that kind of light tan color that we made. And I just used that by making some brown and mixing in some yellow and some white into it. See, I curved my line down here, but then I still made sure to pull the paint upwards. I'm just following the curve of that table so it's really smooth. Let me see. Okay. I don't want to forget the sides of my table either. And if you put some at the top, blend it down. Put some up in here too. Down in here too, I'm gonna add some darker brown. And just blending into the canvas with the paintbrush and the paint that I already have down on the canvas and on the brush. All right, so I'm just going to saturate my brush with some water, wipe off the excess, and then I am going to start pulling the paint upwards, blending in what we already have on our canvas, starting from the bottom or from the sides and going upwards. If you're having a hard time blending the paint in, then add some more water to your brush. All right. Don't forget the sides. And you could use a larger brush if you want to. You could use a 1-inch flat brush. I probably wouldn't use a brush larger than that, at least not on this size canvas. But I'm just really fond of a round brush. Probably use a round brush 90% of the time. I'm not putting any more paint on the brush, just the water. And watch and see, after we do this part, you'll be surprised how fast everything starts to pull together. Now, if you get into some of that silhouette of your vase and of your candle, don't worry too much about that because we're going to cover up those blue lines anyway. So right up in here, we're going to add some more black. I'm just going to do a black line here and a black line there, maybe going around. And I'm going to blend that paint down. And kind of pull it down to where it blends into what we already had down there. Alright, I'm just adding some shadows to it, nothing too fancy, just wherever I feel like it needs some more color variation. Let me step back. Alright, and I'll probably add some more here and there as we go along, but as of right now, I think this is probably good to keep going on to the next thing. So I'm just gonna blend that out some. Alright, I'm just cleaning up that line right there. And don't worry, we can always go back and touch up the background at the end. I'm just blending out what I have down there. Let's see. Add some more water to kind of soften the edges down here. All right. I'm gonna take some of that light tan that I had originally that I blended in with the table. And I'm gonna add some highlights here and there. And then go back in with some of the darks, with some black around where we put those lighter areas to kind of blend it in some. Now down here, because this is kind of dark, I'll probably just, matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and do it now. I'm just going to paint these little teeny tiny corners on the sides of the canvas just black, so the tabletop stands out more so because it's pretty similar to the base coat, background coat that we used. And step back. Yep, we needed that. So do the same thing on this side. Don't forget to do the size of your canvas also. All right, let me look at it again. All right, not too bad. Let me look at it again. All right. I'll probably end up doing something right here, but let's paint what we've got going on first, and then we'll worry about adding some stuff to it. So these flowers are going to be more of a blue kind of purple tone. And since we already have a good amount of grays, I don't want to do blue because I did a blue last time. I think I'll do a lavender for the vase. But instead of me starting with my lavender, I'm actually going to start with a darker purple and mix a little bit of magenta into that. And then I'm going to start with my shadows first. I know I look over here at my reference picture a lot, and I look into the camera a lot too, just to see the whole composition of the picture. All right, so in the corners of my vase, I'm kind of just going to outline the corners and see this kind of bright or dark purple magenta kind of tone, and then kind of blend it upwards. Same thing on this side. It's okay if you accidentally touch into the outline for some of those flowers. We're going to paint over all of this. All right, and up in here, we're going to add some up here as well, kind of around the sides and around the top, and we're going to blend that out too. Bring this all the way to the edge and bring it up. There's some more around here too, since the candle's in front of it. All right. So I'm going to go in now more so, I think I'm going to do a pink. So I'm going to add some white and some red and a little bit of magenta together. So I'm making a pale pink, but not too pastel. Just a nice pink. And I'm just gonna kind of throw this into the middle and up in here. You want it to kind of start to blend into the color that you have out on the sides. I'm going to dilute that brush, not adding any more paint. I wiped off any excess water, and I'm going to blend that in. Right now we're just blending, so we're not being too particular. Just making sure our strokes are nice and smooth. We're blending nicely. Where you have curved lines, you want your brush to curve, or to twist, or to turn, whatever you want to call it. Then pull the paint upwards. But make sure that if you're going to have a curve, that it is curved. If your brush starts getting stiff, then add a little bit of water to that brush. If your paint starts dripping down the canvas or starts dripping from your paintbrush, then you need to wipe off some of that extra water. And right now I'm just kind of blending nicely. You see how that kind of already turned into a nice soft purple on its own. Let's see. I'm just touching up little spots. Cover up your blue lines. You can always go back and add some more definition here and there. Right now, we're more so coloring in the shapes. All right, and I'm gonna go right ahead and mix some lavender too. I'm gonna get some more purple. Here we go. So I'm just gonna use my violet and some white. Make a really soft magenta. I might add a little touch of that pink in there that we just used. And I don't want it too thick. I'm gonna start adding this. Starting in the middle, going around the sides, then I'm going upwards. And add a little bit more water to my brush. Get some more paint. All right, now I like this shade or this tone for our vase, and we're gonna leave it like that because we're gonna come back at the end and add highlights and shadows and all that good stuff to it. All right, so the candle, I'm actually going to do a really pale green, and the candle's going to be lit, so it's going to give the reflection here of it being a little yellow tint. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and start with a light green. So looks like I need some green paint too. All right, but this is going to be more so like a mint kind of green. So I'm going to use that light blue that we used to sketch everything out and mix it in with that green. And I might add some yellow to it also. So I'm just covering up those blue lines. And then I'll do right here. And I'm just gonna fill that in with that color. All right, so I'm going to still use that same green, but add a good amount of white to it to make a really light shade or version of it, or variation, whatever you want to call it. And some yellow paint this time. But I'm gonna lighten up this green a good deal and add a little bit of yellow to it. Need another palette. Got too much paint on this palette. I'm like, does anybody else have this problem with getting their paint out of the bottles? Goodness. There we go, finally. All right. So I'm using white, a teeny tiny touch of yellow, and a little bit of that green that we just used. Add some more yellow into there. There we go. And cover up your blue lines. Like I said, right now we're just kind of blocking in or filling in the color. We'll go back and add all the details, the very last thing. Step back again. All right. So in here, I'm gonna make it a little bit deeper with that yellow. So I'm gonna just go ahead and add some bright yellow around the flame and then kind of fanning off to it, off the sides of it, excuse me. Need to add some water to the brush. All right, and we're not gonna worry about the flame right now. We'll do that at the end. So I want to make sure that the back of the candle stands out before we start doing all of our shading and shadows for the flame. We'll probably do that the very last thing. Let me step back again, like I keep saying. All right. I'm gonna add some yellow right in here and start to kind of blend those two together. See how that starts to blend? And just kind of going out from the sides and blending inwards. I just didn't want that to be a sharp line. Let me step back. All right. See how I'm pushing the paint out, and that helps to give the appearance of a curve or of a rounded edge. All right, I'm starting to like how that's coming together. So I'm gonna start playing around with these flowers some. So there's only a little teeny tiny bit of stem right there, but I'm gonna do that first just so we don't forget about it. So just some green paint. I want this to be kind of bright, so I'm gonna add a good amount of yellow to it, a little bit of white, and just a touch of blue. There we go. And it's not like I need a lot, it's just a little teeny tiny stem up here. And I'm going to go ahead and add my shadowing and everything on this right here, because all of these flowers are going to cover up all of that. So I'm just going to take some dark brown or some umber brown and mix it in with that green, a little bit of that green we just used. And then on the sides of the stem, do a line and kind of blend it in to the middle. And I'm going to do some yellow in the middle of that. And we'll just leave that like that. All right, so these are going to be kind of bluish purple tone. So I'm going to start with a purple first. So I'm going to use my magenta, and I'm actually going to use my 1-inch flat brush for this guy. I'm going to use my magenta, but I want to intensify it. My violet. But I want to intensify it by adding a little touch of red into it. We're not doing too bad. An hour in, that's not too bad. All right, so we're gonna add some red. And right in here, since it's gonna be darker in here, let me see, do I wanna start at the bottom of my flowers? Well, let's just lay out the color and then we'll do the silhouette of the flowers last. So I'm going to do kind of arched motions, but we're going to fill all this up in later anyway. So with some of that violet and red, that tone, I'm just adding some of that here or there where I want the darker parts to go. I'm kind of just throwing some down, because we're going to go back and define all this later. And I'm going to add a little bit on this side too. Kind of here, there, everywhere in the middle. All right, so let's do a nice blue. So I'm going to use some of my Brilliant Blue. There we go. I'm going to add a touch of white, just a little bit, to brighten that up some. I'll add a little drop of purple into that also. Might lighten it just a little bit more. There we go. And right over top of what we've got, I'm going to do some of that same kind of C or U or circular motions with my flat brush to start adding some color variation. And right now we're just worried about layering the colors. We're not really worried too much about the composition. So the same thing on this side, little curved motions. I think I need some more water on my brush. Let me step back. bring this flower kind of touching into it. And see, I went ahead and put all that dark purple up here first so that it would be deeper right in here when I start to fill in the rest of the flowers. All right. And I'm gonna go back in with some purple and some of that blue that we just used, mix them together, but add a little bit of white to make a lighter tone of the two. Still doing those same kind of motions. All right. Right now I'm just making sure all of this has color saturation on it. Making sure there's not any pieces of the canvas poking through, and making sure that my edges around the sides are nice and smooth. I want to make sure these right here is clear because I did bring those flowers over a little bit. And as you can see how I'm being really particular with the edges of those little curved marks. Step back again. Okay. And see, I kind of just play around with it. I add here and there. I kind of add and take away from the composition. So don't be too fussy or picky with yourself about it. Just have fun. All right, so we're gonna let all of this blue and purple dry some so we can go back in and add all kinds of fun definition to the petals and everything. All right, so let's start with the vase and do some shadows and some highlights to that. All right, so I want to do, I kind of like that purple that we used originally to kind of put down, but I think I want to make a little bit of a deeper version of that. So I'm going to add some purple, some magenta, and some red. And that's pretty dark, but I like that. I'm going to thin that down some just so it's not too thick. I'm going to do a line and a curve. Then I'm going to kind of wiggle my brush into that paint. And then blend it out. So you want to smooth that line out. You don't want any straight line. You want to blend it out. Let's see. All right. I'm going to do some of that up in here too. And do some right here too, since there is a natural shadow right here because the candle is in front of that. So I'm actually going to add, I don't want to do black, but I'm going to do a navy blue. So I'm going to add a little bit of red into my brilliant blue to make a navy. I'm going to dilute that some because I don't want it too thick. I want it kind of watery. There we go. And right around where the candle would overlap, I'm going to do that line right there of that blue. And I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to blend it out. And see how I'm moving the brush back and forth, kind of pushing that paint around. And then up in here, where that purple or that burgundy tone that we just used, I didn't even clean my brush off, but I got some of that into it so we can blend up in here with that. All right, so I'm going to take that lavender that we had originally. Matter of fact, I might just go ahead and mix some more up. I just use violet, excuse me, magenta, and white. And then you see how I just put it in the middle and I'm blending it out. And don't be too picky, especially when it gets close to the flowers, because we are going to add more definition and everything to those flowers, so most likely they'll end up getting covered up anyway. All right, I'm going to step back again. All right, I'm starting to like that, so I'm going to leave that alone. I want to change this composition though to this flower. I think I want to cover up the vase some more since you can't really see the top of it. I think I just want to cover up it some more. Yeah, I think I'm going to be happier with that. All right, so let's play around with this candle some. Can I ever find the color that I want? Where is the green paint? Because I just had it. There we go. Found it. All right. So I'm going to mix some dark brown or some dark umber in with my green. And a little bit of red to it to deepen up this green some. All right. So right in here, yeah, I did a curved line with that dark green. I'm gonna wipe off the excess paint and start to push that paint out to the sides. And bring it up to the top too. All right, let me step back. Okay, I'm gonna do that on this side as well with that same green. Make sure if there's still any of that blue line from when you sketched it out that you cover that up. Then we're gonna do the same thing. Push the paint over to the sides. And you see how I kind of blend it all in the middle. All right, let's see. I'm gonna add some browns on the sides right in here too. And I think I'm just gonna do the dark umber. I'm gonna mix it with a little bit of yellow, I think, but I want it to be really dark. Just a touch of yellow. And And see, I didn't take the brown all the way to the edge. I kind of just put it in the middle. And I'm going to do the same thing. Blend it out. All right, let me look at it again. Okay, I'm liking that. I'm gonna deepen this up some a little bit right here. All right, I think I'm liking that. Okay, so let's play around up in here. So I'm gonna go in with a pale brown. Almost like a tan, but with a little touch of yellow in it. All right. I'm just doing a line of that kind of really pale tan color at the base of the candle, or the ridge of the candle, excuse me. And the same thing around. I'm basically gonna fill the top and the sides with that shade and blend into the middle. So with that same brush, I didn't clean it off or anything, I'm going to use some yellow around the sides and of the flame and then blend it outwards. And take some dark brown and right in here, add a little bit, and add some on this side too. Go back in with that initial light tan that I made. Kind of blend these into each other some. All right, let's step back again. Okay. Before you know it, it'll be coming together. All right. I want to lighten this up some in here, so I'm gonna make an even lighter purple. And see, I'm kind of just throwing some down. I'm going to add some magenta around it too, because I don't want it too light. See, I'm kind of just going over top of where I put it. Dilute the brush and blend side to side with this too. Clean out my brush a little bit more. There we go. And some more of that navy. All right. Alright, so I'm going to make sure I bring the purple onto this side too, to blend it out some more since I lightened it up some in the middle. So make sure I add some more to this side too. I'm just going to blend it out in the middle. Pretty much the same technique I've been doing the whole time. Doing it a little bit darker right there. Alright, let me step back from it again. Okay, I'm liking that. I'm not going to be too picky because when we do these flowers, a lot of that's going to get covered up. Alright, so these flowers are going to be a nice light blue with little touches of purple. So I'm going to use our, where'd my brush go? Here we go. No, I want to use the wider one. Where's my brush? There we go. So I'm going to use my 1-inch flat brush, pretty much the same brush that we used to kind of give the shapes up there anyway. Sorry, I needed to get something to drink. All right, so I'm going to use some of my Brilliant Blue on just a little bit of white. A little bit of that lavender into it. Some purple to make it a little bit richer. All right, so I'm actually going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to do little small little curved motions like this, almost like you're doing little U's. And it doesn't have to be perfect, you just want it to have curved lines. And you see, I'm not making them all go in the same exact direction. Some are going up and around, some are going down, some are going to the left, to the right. They're overlapping each other. And I don't want it all the way covered up because we're going to keep adding more layers to this to give the appearance of a full bouquet of flowers. So over here we're going to do that same thing, but if you remember, we made this side darker, especially in here, because they're overlapping. So I'm going to use that same blue, but I'm going to intensify it with some purple and some red. I might add some magenta to it too. Still keep it kind of bright. There we go. But this, as you're going to be able to see, is a good amount darker. And it's okay if they touch a little bit because they are going to go over top of each other. We're going to end up touching into each other anyway. And see, I'm just adding here and there. All right. So I'm actually going to go in with a little bit of black right there. I'm not going to clean my brush off. I'm going to kind of blend into what I already have. That blue I was already using with the black. And kind of up in here, just to make sure the shadows right there. All right. Clean that off. I think I'm going to take some more of that light blue and make sure to go over top of that. All right, perfect. Stepping back again, like I always do. All right. I'm actually in the flowers going to go in with some little touches of white. Then I'm going to go in with some lavenders and finish off with a little bit of some blues. So it's not going to be just plain straight up white. It's still going to have some touches of blues in it. So I just kind of wet the brush. I didn't really clean it off. So it's really just more of a pastel blue. It's not really white. But this time I'm going to try to do little loops of 2. You see how I'm kind of just putting them everywhere. And see, I'm doing them all different shapes, different directions. They're not all the same size. They're not all in the same spot. All right, we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're doing sets of 2. And be mindful, right in here, I don't want it too light, so I'm not going to put too many going that way. Let me step back from it. Add one right here. Add some up in here. All right. I'm gonna go back with that dark blue that we made and kind of go over top of those areas to blend them in together to where this flower is behind the other one. All right. Okay. All right. So like I said, I'm gonna add some touches of purple or violet into there. So I'm going to use some of the violet and the magenta or the lavender and all that stuff that I already had mixed together. So I kind of mixed them both onto my brush, so it's not really a solid color on my brush. It's kind of a variation. And I'm going to do little touches here and there as well with the lavender also. The same motions. I'm going to add some over here too. All right, step back again. All right. There we go. Found it. All right, I'm gonna use some deeper tones. So I'm using some magenta, some lavender, and some of that dark blue. Just darken it up in those little areas right in there. Add some throughout here also. And see, now I'm kind of just doing individual little loops. I'm not doubling them. Just adding some darker shades where I feel like I need some more definition or some more depth. And still just doing kind of curved, see, little curved motions. Add some more water to my brush. All right, step back again. All right, I want to brighten that up some, so I'm going to use some red and some magenta. Just a little bit of white. So just kind of add in some color here and there. All right, so let's see. Let me step back away from it again. All right, I'm actually going to go in with some black right in here. Just plain black, and no, I didn't clean off my brush all the way or anything like that. I'm just going to kind of do some little strokes coming out from behind this flower, just to make it more obvious that it's in the background. All right, lighten those areas up some. All right, let me step back some more. All right, so I'm gonna let that dry, and then we're gonna do our final blue tone to kind of blend all of that together. In the meantime, let's work on this little flame right here. So I'm gonna do a really pastel yellow. And I'm just gonna use a smaller brush. It doesn't matter if it's a round brush, flat brush, it doesn't really matter. All right, so very pale yellow. Then I'm just gonna start to intensify that yellow some, starting from in the middle. And kind of just brushing the yellow out to the sides. Just kind of playing around with it some. I'm just making a really light orange tone. And I'm kind of dabbing it into the sides. Kind of dabbing it into the sides of the flame. All right, and we're not going to make this painting too complex. So we're going to start adding some of our shadows and highlights down here. So I'm going to use my round brush. Make sure my brush is good and clean because I'm going to start using some white paint, and of course I have to get some more again. Really? I feel like it takes me longer to get the paint out of the bottles than to actually paint the picture. All right. Just a little bit of white. Make sure it's nice and thin, not too thick. And we're going to start adding some highlights to this. So I'm going to start kind of going off to the middle right here. Wipe my brush off some, and then kind of wiggle this around. Get some more water on my brush. Blend into that. And you see, I blend to the sides. I step back. All right. Add some purple and some lavender. Blend into that. All right. All right, gonna add just a touch of black right around where the flowers kind of touch the vase and blend it out. Add a little bit of black around here also, and kind of do the same thing. See, I did not use a lot of black at all. You do not need a lot of black. Black and white both go a long way. All right, I'm gonna add some more highlights right in here for my candle. I'm just gonna go ahead and start with the white, more so in the middle. And blend it out. All right, I'm just using some dark brown on the sides again. Dilute my brush some. Spread that out. I want a little bit more. Add some more greens onto the sides right here. Blend that in. All right. Line this up in here some too. All right. Step back again. I'm gonna darken this green down here some. All right, we're getting close to the finish line, you guys. Just the last final little details. All let's give these flowers some love, and then I think we're good to go. So I'm going to use still a flat brush, but a smaller one this time. And let me step back again. I know I keep saying that. I'm going to make a pretty bright blue, but I want a little bit of a gray tone to it. So I'm going to use some lavender, some violet, some brilliant blue, some white, and just a touch of black. A little bit more black to it. All right. And I'm gonna do some of those same little U shapes. I'm just doing smaller ones. And they don't all have to be going in the same directions. So I'm curving some up, down, around to the sides. Be mindful to not cover up all those lovely layers that you just did. We're just defining everything, giving more shape to everything, more definition right now. I'm not trying to make sure they're all the same size or anything like that. I'm just adding some smaller, more defined lines. And when I get up here, I'm going to start arching them, going the other way. Step back. All right. I'm going to do it a little bit. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start in with the same tone down in here. I'm going to put some right in here, but not too much. I'm actually going to take some black and do some of those shapes with that to kind of naturally blend it into that shadow. All right, let me take a step back. All right, I'm going to go back in with some purples on this side. This side I'm kind of liking it the way it is. This side I want to add some more color to it. All right, so let's see. All right, I'm gonna do my final little details with my white and my black, and then I'm gonna call it a day. I'm pretty happy with how it's looking, so I'm not gonna keep y'all that much longer. So switch back to my favorite little round brush, and just some of those little shapes here and there with the white. I'm gonna do the same thing with the black. All right, clean your brush off all the way so you can do the same thing with some black. Make sure it's not too thick. Thin your brush out a good amount. And I'm going to add some blacks here and there. See, they're not all going the same way, same direction, nothing like that. And you know what? There's one other little thing I wanted to do with the white. I wanted to add a little ridge right here for the candle. Let me step back from it. All right. I'm gonna use my little fine brush and add some very fine details of some black here and there. And blend those out some. feel like I'm just starting to be super picky and OCD about all of this, and I need to just leave it alone because I'm actually liking it. If I keep playing around with it, I'll keep changing this and that. So, with that being said, I think I'm going to leave it alone. I think I'm pretty much happy with it, so I'm going to go ahead and call it a day and go ahead and stop. So if you guys enjoyed painting with me today, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe down below. Again, I am Kicherra, and thank you for joining me today on Kicherra Creates, and I will see you guys next time. Have a great day. Bye.